Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to look at new words for our times. These words reflect social movements or new things happening in politics. We're going to start with millennial. A millennial is a person who's between the age of a teenager now and their late 20s. Thankfully, I just escaped being a millennial because millennials are whiny and they're just so weak, and they're like little special snowflakes, very delicate. And millennials are just, they've been so protected all their lives that when it comes to it in the real world, they are, they like whine and they shout and they cry, but they don't do a lot. No offense to any millennials watching. Next word is related to the millennials. The millennials need safe spaces because this world out there it's so mean, and people say such horrible things that they need to be protected inside their safe spaces. And so the idea of a safe space would be somewhere on a college campus where you know you can go and be safe, and you don't have to be scared or upset by any of the mean things that old white men and politicians say. Anything that offends you in the safe space, it's all very relaxed there. Maybe you'll manage to do a bit of studying in that safe space. Nobody can get to you. The next word is also related to the millennials in the safe space. They go here because nothing bad will ever happen to them. But when they go out into the big wide world, oh no, they need trigger warnings. Trigger warnings is, you give a trigger warning when something you're going to say could upset someone, it could be offensive to them, and it could create a trauma or a kind of flashback to them. And because they are so weak, they can't hear this thing, and they need a trigger warning to keep them safe. When someone is triggered, then they're triggered by something they don't want to hear, and sometimes they might scream like, no, I can't take it, no. That's when they're triggered. So because they have such big emotional responses to things they don't like, that's why they need the safe spaces. And I think, actually, come to think about it, maybe the safe spaces are a good idea, because they could just go in the safe space and we wouldn't be in there, so they could do all that alone in the safe space. The next word is social justice warrior, SJW. Also to do with the millennials. One of the things associated with them is that they protest a lot. They're vocal. They like to take a stand against the things they don't like, which they typically do online. They talk about things online, or perhaps they go protesting and things like that. A social justice warrior is someone whose main reason to protest is things to do with race issues or gender issues, and they think that, or feminist issues. They think that for whatever group they belong to, they think that life isn't fair for them. So that's the reason of they protest. They're warriors, they're fighters, they're warriors. Next we've got gender non-binary. A person who calls themselves I'm gender non-binary. What that means is, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm something in between those genders that it can't be specified as this or that. It's my own identity, which is gender non-binary, not the traditional man, not the traditional woman, but something in between. Next word is a word that's used as an insult or a term of offence to people is libtard. The tard part reminds us of the word retard, which means disabled person, and the lib part comes from liberal. When you put it together, libtard means somebody who's so liberal in their politics or their ideas or their vision and their view of the world, they've actually become retarded and disabled because of it, used as an insult. The next two terms we have to look at together. We've got globalism versus populism. Populism in politics is movements like Brexit in the UK and the election of Donald Trump in the USA. Two movements which were similar in the sense that in those countries, the national media didn't support or expect those two things to happen. So in the UK, for example, a lot of the news coverage in the run-up to Brexit was all to get people to vote to stay in the European Union. So, and many people were surprised when the people in the UK voted in their referendum to leave the EU. So that's become thought of as a populist movement, a movement of the people against their governments. You know, they perceive that the government's not working for them or their group of people, and it's a change in the old way of politics, and it's more about them and their country and their small part of the world than it is about globalism. Globalism comes from the world having a bigger vision of all countries working in cooperation. For example, like the EU having a big super state and looking out towards other countries more, is coming back down. And it's also a evolved term, I would say, from the word nationalism, which is about putting your nation first. But nationalism has connotations for many people to bring up the Second World War again. So the new term is populism. And I think what's different about populism as well is there are so many ways for average people to get involved in politics now, which happens a lot online, starting Facebook groups, making YouTube videos, all things now where people can be their own media, which you couldn't do before. So this brings us back in a way to the millennials and using the internet and using new ways to communicate our message and the politics we believe in. Next, we've got the idea of fake news. Fake news can be completely made up stories on the internet, which the whole purpose of making up the story is to get people to click on it. And when they go to that fake story, whoever created the fake story makes money from all the people going to look. So that's what fake news means in the truest sense. The way it's also becoming used in my understanding and how I'm seeing it evolve as a term is that the mainstream media, traditional newspapers, traditional journalists will say that the alternative media, that it's not supported by a big newspaper behind, but it's, you know, someone making content in their bedroom or whatever, that the smaller kind of people giving out opinions. The mainstream media will say some of their stories are fake news, they're not true, and they'll say people are believing fake news and things that are not true. And the same the other way around. The people who don't believe the mainstream media and only look at the alternative media will sometimes say, oh, it's fake news, it's fake news, it's fake news in the mainstream newspaper. So it's a bit like two sides disagreeing on something, whether something's true or whether it's fake. The next idea is to virtue signal, or people who are virtue signalers. This means people who have a kind of politics or a kind of belief, or they do something in their life because the real reason is they want to look good, and they want to look kind, and they want to look like they're really good people, but it's not really genuine, it's just to look good. So an example would be, let's say you decided to adopt children, and you decided, oh, I'm going to go and adopt children from the middle of the Congo rainforest. I'm going to go and adopt 5 children from there. And you bring them back to your country, and then you start you start like telling everyone about these children that you adopted and why you're helping them so much, and and you have to let everybody know about it. And the true reason isn't because you love the children or you wanted to help them. It's just so that everybody says, wow, you help people so much. Oh, you're so kind. And you get attention. Next example is data dump. A data dump is when a organization like WikiLeaks, a group of hackers, or an organization that brings hidden things out into the news, they will get thousands or millions and millions of emails, and then they will pass them on to the newspapers, or they'll put them out there so that individuals can go and look into a subject and find the information about it. But there's so much information. It's too much for one person to do all by themselves. And the reason for doing the data dump is to bring the hidden secret things out into the open. So perhaps there was something illegal that happened in government, or perhaps there's been a conspiracy, a secret about something. And the reason for doing this data dump is to say, it's not, if you think about it, then it's not one individual person saying, hey, you did this, which is maybe going to get them into, it would be dangerous for them to come out and speak against the government, perhaps, or an important person. But when the information comes out this way, perhaps that's why it's done. Maybe it's safer to get the information out this way. Okay, the next term is Pizzagate. When you hear of something going on, an event, or something that happens, and it has the word gate, the suffix gate in it. Gate comes from a famous time in American politics called Watergate, when there was right, American history is not my strong point, but anyway, there was a problem with the president being in trouble about something, and things had been kept secret about it. But in Watergate, the secret came out, and since then, when there is a big scandal, usually in politics, or when something that was secret before comes out, this is where the gate part comes from. Now, in terms of Pizzagate, I don't want to go into it too much. This is something that you could look into yourself if you were interested. But Pizzagate is about the idea that the elites, the people in the government, people in the high up positions are, not saying all of them, but they abuse children, and they're into paedophilia, having like sexual things with children. So the idea, this whole Pizzagate scandal and storm, is about those people in the high up positions using code words to do with pizza. So they're just writing emails about pizza, it looks like. But actually what they were writing about was secret messages about having sex with children. So that's all I'm going to say. If you want to look at it yourself. Next thing is digital nomad. A digital nomad is someone who works on the internet from anywhere in the world. A nomad is a person that has not one home. They just move their home all the time from here to here to here to here. Nomads used to be in the desert, but now nomads can be anywhere with their laptop computers. I did this for a bit. I lived that dream. I lived that dream for a while. I thought I'd live that dream forever, but no, not anymore. The next word is minimalist. A minimalist is often a digital nomad who can't carry a lot of stuff around because they're always moving. So they say, oh, I don't want to have a lot of stuff. I'm beyond stuff. I don't need to have lots of things because I'm a minimalist and I care about the environment and I don't need material belongings. So yeah, so a minimalist is usually someone that cares very much about the planet and wasting things. So the point of living their lifestyle by not spending a lot of money, not buying things they don't need. And it's a trend, it's one of the trends at the moment, of a lifestyle trend, and a lot of people are interested in how to minimalize their life. How do I not need so many clothes? How do I, how can I stop buying so many things from the supermarket? How can I live with less? So people would be interested in those kind of things, would be minimalists. The next word is co-working. Co-working is when you don't have perhaps you're someone who works for themselves, perhaps you're someone who works on the internet. Generally, you could work from your house, but when you work from your house all the time, the downside of that is you don't see enough people. Perhaps it's hard to stay motivated. Perhaps it's just boring as well. So a trend is for co-working or co-working spaces where you rent access to a place where you can go and work. And another reason people do it is because here in the co-working space, you have fast internet, maybe there's good coffee you can drink there, and maybe it's a cool, inspiring environment for you to be around. So it's either somewhere that you pay to use and you can always go, or it could also be as well, some cafes are designed this way so that people can go and work there really easily. They have good desk space, lots of places to charge your laptop. So those would be co-working cafes. The next idea is hot desking. Hot desking is when it could be in your office where you always work, but it could also, it could be wherever you work, you don't have a set chair and desk where you always work every day. That's my space. I always sit here by the window. No, hot desking isn't like that. You could move around to different places in that place where you work, and other people can sit in your chair because you don't have a chair when you're hot desking. You move around. And the last word to mention here, preppers, are people who think they're getting prepared, basically. They're getting prepared for a big disaster, World War III, environmental catastrophe, riots, looting. They're getting prepared for when shit hits the fan. So what they do is Perhaps they'll be energy independent. They'll have their own way to generate electricity. They'll have survival skills like how to capture animals, how to butcher them, how to grow food. Or they might, if they're, I'm not going to call them, like, it's a different way. Some preppers aren't going to want to learn the skills. They'll just buy lots and lots of space traveling astronaut food or army food. They'll buy like 3 years of army food so that if all the food did run out from the shops, they would still have something to eat when shit hits the fan. But yeah, the point of them is they're worried about all this stuff going on, and I guess they want to protect themselves and feel safe and feel ready for if things go dangerous and wrong politically. So thank you all for watching now. What you can do is the quiz on this lesson. I'll see you again soon. Bye.